Daniel. All right, everyone, let's take our seats. You got it? You're putting it up on the site? Right now, yeah. Okay. Good? All right. Awesome. All right. Who are we missing? We got Kirby at the back. Where's Brian? Brian, just grabbing some water, no worries. Andy, we got you. All right, great. So next up, we're going to see our 9th class. This is the last week for them. They're in the 12th week. We're live streaming this. We've invited our syndicate to watch. So we've got a few folks on there as well. Just as a quick introduction to them, I'm Jason DeMont, Managing Director of the Launch Accelerator, formerly known as the Launch Incubator. So if this is your first time watching us, what you're going to see is you're going to see 8 companies pitch for 3 minutes. This is only going to be the trailer. After the 3 minutes, we've got an esteemed panel of judges here that are going to ask them questions, give them feedback, and then the founder have 2 minutes to answer those questions. The 8 companies are in completely random order. These 8 companies have beat out hundreds of applicants to get into our Launch Accelerator program. They've gone through our diligence, we've done reference checks, and so forth, and we've invested $100K into each of them. We hope to syndicate most of them, which is obviously why I assume you're watching. And more information on that will be sent as they come up through our standard deal memos. If you'd like to pre-commit to any of the companies that you see, you can email me, and I'll send you a form to pre-commit to any of them. All right, I think I've got through everything. At the end, again, what we're going to do is we're going to ask all 7 of you to pick your 3, 2, and 1. And what's particularly exciting about this being the last week, we've got 2 companies, obviously I'm not going to tell you who, neck and neck. Hopefully you'll get to decide who's the big winner from this class. All right, let's get started. First up, we've got Dennis from Taffy, and let's give him a warm welcome. Did that twice. All right, Dennis, 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Dennis from Taffy, and we're built to connect innovators in tomorrow's healthcare industry. So broadly, we're a tech company that connects systems. Think Informatica or MuleSoft. Where we differ is that we've created a SaaS product to do this instead of relying on services. We've also chosen healthcare because we see that's where the biggest opportunity is and where our background fits. And then we see integration as just the first step in taking advantage of a lot of new data sources in the industry. So a healthcare vendor goes to revolutionize the system. They have to work with the electronic medical record. Their options are not very good. They're expensive, and they don't always fit what they need. Taffy can give them what they need better than any of the traditional options. And how we do that is when they go to connect with the EMR, our software does most of the interface mapping, which saves a ton of time and effort on both the hospital and vendor side. Then we're more flexible in terms of the information that we ingest. We can take in almost any format. And then we can aggregate and normalize it to make it much easier for the vendor to work with. We can also blend in clinical and non-clinical information. And then ultimately, we can expose it via API. Don can go in and pull what he needs, and that connection looks the same no matter how many different EMRs he's connected to. So we don't just target software vendors. There are pretty much anybody in healthcare who uses data could be a customer of ours. Hospitals, payers, vendors of all kinds. We've chosen to target vendors because the sales cycle is shorter, use cases are more focused. Ultimately, why would they choose Taffy? A few different things. Hospitals are very backlogged in terms of what they need to implement, and so they need a solution that can deploy quickly. We take a typical 10-month implementation and reduce it down to 1. We also see that other traditional options are just too custom and expensive to let these vendors scale up quickly. And then if these vendors can write information back to the medical record, it increases their value a great deal, and there aren't very good options for that either. So our pricing is very favorable to them. They pay for what they use, data formats in each location, but it also offers us upside because as they scale to more hospitals, our revenue scales linearly. So our team can offer this because we're deep in health IT expertise from the major EMRs and medical systems, and Taffy is built to connect innovators to turn sick care into healthcare. Thank you.
Great. And at the accelerator, we ask all of our founders to track a weekly metric. So what metric are you tracking, Dennis?
Sure. So we look at tech calls, and we were tracking authentications. It's kind of a product metric, but there was something wonky with the query. So with tech calls, we don't have specifically demos, but this is the closest thing to it. We want to see that we're still talking to people and moving them through the funnel. We're kind of at the end of a cycle. We're hiring a sales guy next week, so that's exciting. Expect that to ramp up. And then our sites for usage, we've been implementing in new sites over the last couple of months, so usage is up.
Great. Bill, if you want to start with feedback and questions.
Let me see, are we live? There we go. Thank you. Great presentation. Curious how many EMR systems are out there?
Great presentation. With healthcare, you're collecting from vendors. What's the payment cycle?
Hoping to understand, like, I understand how you compete with the service providers, hoping to understand how you've competed with companies that are ostensibly productizing this too, like a Redox or an Akito Labs. What's different about you guys, and what are some of the tech trade-offs between your approaches, theirs, and the services vendors? Also hoping to understand sales cycles and what rights you actually have over the data that you're handling.
So one of the traditional problems with these meta layers is that the breaking API changes and sort of just getting whiplashed by all the vendors you're sitting on top of, or all the EMRs you're sitting on top of. How do you handle that?
I actually have a similar question, but I think it's been addressed already, so I think, yeah.
I have so many questions. This is my investing space and my consulting space. So, because you're talking about software vendors, pharma, med device, are you talking HIPAA data? Are you talking about 21 CFR Part 11 data? If it's, and you're talking about, you said clinical and non-clinical, you're talking about structured and unstructured and being able to normalize that. And if you're aggregating data from multiple systems, how are you being able to pull those together? Because it's only valuable if you have it from like a patient, being able to aggregate it based on a patient ID of some sort. And that's a thing that's valuable to the end customer.
Are you familiar with Plaid and Quovo? Plaid and Quovo, two startups in the fintech space. Okay. I'm curious, at a high level, what do you think are the similarities and differences between aggregation of customer data as an API between healthcare and financial services?
And then if you're watching on the live stream, feel free to click through to YouTube and ask questions in the chat. And we had one question from the chat. Can you talk a little bit more about the security measures that you have as well? We'll just add that to your 2 minutes. Sure. No 2 minutes problem. On the clock. 3, 2, go.
Okay, great. Bill, so there are lots of EMRs out there. 2 of them make up about 60 to 70% of the market. We work with the top 5 or so we cover more than 70% of the market. But then the new ones or the smaller ones are not incredibly difficult for us to spin up. Kirby, the payment cycle, so we do SaaS monthly. We lock them in to a year contract. Yep, it's all good. Ivy, so the other API competitors are typically good at doing like point-to-point integration. And so they've chosen to kind of focus on today's problems where they just need to move data from one place to another. We're looking ahead to where we're blending in multiple sources and aggregating it to be more useful. And so there are similarities, but even with those, like some of them are pretty rigid in terms of what they accept and how they push it back to the customer. So I think we have a lot of, we're not custom, but we feel custom because we offer a lot of flexibility. The sales cycles for healthcare systems, 2 years. For vendors, it's more like 3 to 6 months. And then data, who owns it? Is that what you asked? Oh, yeah. None, really. We're just, stewards of it. We are looking into derived insights in our future roadmap, but not, yeah. So Zach, we typically go around the APIs. So like the marketplaces, we don't pay to sit on that. Sometimes we suggest that a customer does use it because that makes the most sense. But we can basically act as our own web services around that. Terry, HIPAA data we can do. We're looking at claims data right now. We're looking at bringing in pretty much anything that hospital systems and vendors would want to work with. And we don't act as the patient ID, like the patient registry or anything like that. So if vendors come in, we'll have to reconcile that as we blend it in upfront. Let's see. And Andy, FinTech has 130 fields or something like that. So it is an integration problem, but with healthcare, it's way more than that. And so, and where you get into this unstructured data, stuff like that, we can bring some of that in, but we don't do natural language processing or anything. And security, we have a top-notch security guy from HCA. Answer any questions offline, and thank you very much.
Great. Round of applause for Dennis. And let's welcome Brandon from Grin. 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
I want to introduce you guys to Hunter. Hunter is the director of marketing at Ellie. Ellie is a popular clothing brand with young women. Influencer marketing has quickly become the most important piece of Ellie's strategy because the content that influencers create is engaging and cost-effective. And they work with a lot of influencers, 1,800 every single month to create content. And it's very complex for Hunter to manage this process. He uses a variety of different tools, none of which talk to each other very well. And it leaves him stressed out. Until he comes across Grin, the CRM for influencer marketing. Intrigued, he signs up. And within 30 days of getting launched inside Grin, Hunter's process goes from this to this. Grin's CRM for influencer marketing streamlines the content creation process. Here's how it works. First, he uploads his roster of 1,800 influencers. Second, he connects his e-commerce, email, and Slack with one click. Once connected, Grin automatically syncs and starts tracking all of his communication. Grin aggregates his branded content and puts it into a searchable library, automates recruitment of new influencers via outbound and inbound, shows him who he needs to follow up with and who's behind on content, helps him collect W-9s and manage payments at scale. And with Grin, Hunter is able to get 10x the content in half the time. And he's pumped. He crushes his KPIs. He probably gets a promotion. My name's Brandon. I'm the CEO of Grin, the CRM for influencer marketing. Authentic content is mission critical for brands in today's world. And modern marketing departments need more content than ever. The truth is that traditional studio shoots don't meet the demands of modern marketing. They are slow, old-fashioned, and expensive. They're rarely optimized for social, they require lots of planning, and there's low volume output. Influencer content and influencer marketing is a compelling solution to this problem, and it outperforms studio shot content in every area. It's free of overhead, it's faster to create and scale, it's high volume, on demand, optimized for social, and it's far more credible. And this has created an entirely new discipline. This is Google's search volume for the term influencer marketing from 2004 until now. And a few short years ago, this just didn't exist. And now there are 108,000 influencer marketing managers on LinkedIn and 28,000 open jobs on ZipRecruiter. To date, we have over 100 paying companies using Grin, brands like Movement Watches, Diff Eyewear, and Ellie Activewear. We're a SaaS business model, and I'm proud to say that as of last week, we crossed $1 million in ARR, and we've been growing at 18% a month for the last 12 months straight. My name's Brandon. We're Grin, the CRM for influencer marketing, and we're powering content for the world's best brands. Thanks.
Well done. And your beautiful weekly metric?
Yeah, so we track annual recurring revenue. And so we're plus 3% versus last week, and we had a huge week prior where we grew 10%. So we're just over $1 million in ARR.
Amazing. Congrats. That's awesome. Andy, you want to feedback and questions, please?
From your experience, what have you observed as the largest change that's taking place within influencer marketing as a field today?
This first one's rhetorical. Are there no male influencers? that could be depicted in any of your slides? What's the end game for this? Are you thinking acquisition by a Salesforce type thing, or an SAP, or like they did with SuccessFactors or something, or Oracle? Are you planning to IPO? What's the end game for this company?
Who's your current favorite investor?
Is that rhetorical too?
Can you explain the pricing model, and then what's your churn rate, monthly churn rate?
Same questions as Zach. Also hoping to understand how you differentiate from competitors and who you think is the biggest competitor.
Great presentation. What's your customer acquisition strategy, and how do you add customers, past your where you are today?
Most of my questions have been asked already, but I'm just curious. See a lot of people talking about influencer marketing being, a fad. So I'm just curious, where's it going?
2 minutes, go for it.
All great questions. So the first thing is this a fad? Bill, I actually thought the same thing when I was thinking about influencer marketing. And as I started to research it, what I discovered is that this is actually the way that brands are getting branded content now. So it's distribution of the content is important, but it's just a much more effective way to get high volumes of content. And so to equate it to being a fad, it's almost like thinking about content, and content marketing is a fad. So I think it's just wrong. Kirby, so what's the customer acquisition strategy? So we're inside sales model. We get leads between inbound and outbound channels, good close rate, super predictable funnel. That's driving our growth. How do you differentiate from competitors? So 90% of our competitors are marketplaces, which middleman the relationship between influencers and brands. What we found is that brands actually prefer to go direct to influencers because they get better content and it costs less. So we enable this, and this is how we're different. Zach, pricing and churn. So we're SaaS, so we have 3 tiers. ARR ranges from 10 to 40K. Churn across the customer base is net revenue churn 1 to 4% per month. Customer churn 7 to 9%. It's early cohorts monthly. Early cohorts churning out. When you actually do the analysis on the churn, what you find is that all of our churn is weighted in low ACV customers. ARR 6K and above, which are the new deals, we actually have negative churn because we're expanding those customers. So it's really a customer fit problem. Brian, you're our most favorite investor. Terry, great point about the slides. Ellie is a women's lifestyle brand, which is why I chose those photos. But obviously, influencer marketing is not gender specific. But I appreciate the comment. And then your question, Terry, endgame. Yeah, so we're building a durable business that we know is on the back of a fundamental shift in consumer behavior and in the way that brands will operate in the future. So our plan long-term is to take over the entire marketing mix and not just be content and social distribution. And there's many public companies that are in that same space, and so we're going big. And that's it. Andy, you were first, but sorry that you're last. Maybe we can talk offline. Thanks.
All right, round of applause for Brandon. Let's welcome Bennett from Blackthorn. 3 minutes on the clock.
Oh, sorry.
Oops. You got it? Got it. 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Hey, I'm Bennett from Blackthorn, and we're building modern event management for the enterprise. So one of our customers, IAB, is a 60,000 member association, and all their data is in Salesforce. And our key stakeholder is Connor, who's their director of IT. Connor's big headache was that he had way too many apps. All of them were really hard to maintain. And he had no inclusive portal or mobile app to go to. And that meant that he had no central view of any of his contacts. He was using Cvent, Eventbrite, Attendify, Fontiva, and we were able to replace all of those apps with Blackthorn. So if I'm an IAB member, I can go to their sign-in page, our authenticated portal online, or I can also do the same thing through their branded mobile app. Once I'm in the app, I can see all the events that I'm eligible to attend. I can see overviews of those events, sign up for those events, go through either a free or paid registration process. And then once I'm registered for an event, I actually can meet and begin to chat with and request meeting requests from right inside the app. So For Connor, all of these interactions are in one place, which is Salesforce, solving a massive problem for him. So recently we did the Direct Brand Summit for IAB, where we checked in over 700 people on our mobile app, facilitated 550 meeting requests, and we did all of this on one technology stack, which was Blackthorn. And for Connor, he had one view of all these event interactions inside of Salesforce. Why is this important? More and more organizations want one single source of truth for the data, and that happens to be Salesforce very often. We're able to provide that via Blackthorn, and companies can take advantage of this without writing any code, and it's available on any device. So today we're working with all types of associations, for-profits, and nonprofits, and we recently partnered with the Salesforce Foundation to target all of their higher education accounts. Today we're working over 400 leads across that for-profit, nonprofit, and higher ed space, and within our addressable market is anybody who uses Salesforce to manage events. And if you're unfamiliar with that space, there's about 150,000 businesses running Salesforce today. An additional 15,000 businesses or nonprofits that run Salesforce. And the global ecosystem expects to do about $860 billion in new business by 2022. Our team, John's been building platforms for over 20 years. This is the third sales team that I've built. And Chris is a second-time founder whose first company was a Salesforce services company. And we're supported by an incredible team of full stack and Salesforce developers. Today, we're doing just shy of 600K in ARR. We'll be well over that by the end of this year, growing at about 14% month over month with a 680K pipeline. I'm Bennett with Blackthorn, and we're building modern event management for the enterprise.
All right, round of applause. Well done, Bennett. And your metric, which I think you touched on briefly.
Yeah, so right now we're tracking week over week growth. We had a little bit of a slow week last week with Thanksgiving, but week over week growth remains pretty strong, and we're seeing a huge uptick right now. We just recently came out with 2 new things for our platform, and we're seeing a huge demand. So I think going into next year, this is just going to rocket ship.
Awesome, great. Well done. Bill, feedback and questions.
Awesome. I can definitely tell you run sales, by the way.
Guilty.
So the conference market, love it. It's huge. Just curious, are you selling to companies that are the planners of these conferences directly, or the companies that are actually putting the conference on, if that makes sense?
Yep.
A great presentation. What is the product that your customers find the most value?
Is there another platform that you can integrate with outside of Salesforce?
What are they normally switching off of?
Yeah, along the lines of another platform is where do you see the future growth?
Dealing with as a user for like JP Morgan, a lot of these groups have already developed these integrated platforms and everything else. How are you convincing them to move away from something they've probably invested a lot of money into? Well, I'll stop there.
I have the same question as Zach.
Okay.
Great. 2 minutes, Bennett. Go for it.
Awesome. So to answer the question of who we're selling to, typically right now it's a lot of Salesforce administrators. So they're getting a lot of questions internally from key stakeholders that are over sales or marketing or events. And they're going, hey, like I'm running these events in Eventbrite or Fontiva or Cvent, and that's great. We can put on an event, but I have no way to tie that back to what's actually happening inside of Salesforce, which is very often the system of record if they're using Sales Cloud or Marketing Cloud or Pardot or things like that. So right now it's kind of the Salesforce administrators aligned with the business that's coming to us. I think further on down the road, there could be an opportunity to kind of expand that, but right now that's where it is. As far as integration into other platforms, the platform itself is built on top of AWS. So right now Salesforce is kind of our beachhead, but we have more than enough capability at some point to move off of and not be solely reliant on Salesforce. Let's see, I think there was a couple combined questions here as far as future growth and where we're getting people to switch from. We've had a couple, I think something really interesting that speaks to ultimately what I think this could be is within the past couple weeks, we've had 2 customers switch that do no paid events at all from Eventbrite, and they pay us a licensing fee now to run their events. That's how important integrating back into Salesforce is. So there's a free platform out there, and they're switching off of that free platform and paying us a licensing fee just so that they can have this integrated back into Salesforce. So we're seeing people switch off of everything from Eventbrite to Cvent to Fontiva, Attendify, lots of different platforms. As far as moving them off of why they would move, you do events to drive engagement, and very often, whether it's a custom build thing, it's really hard to manage, even if you've built this yourself inside of something like Salesforce and it's custom. Managing that Apex code, managing all that is very costly and time consuming, and the business needs are constantly changing, and being a SaaS model, we can push out innovation much faster than they could, and it's always integrated. And I think I got everybody, but if I didn't, sorry, we can talk offline. Thanks.
Well done. Round of applause for Blackthorn. And let's welcome Amanda from Ballooner. 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Greenberg. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ballooner. Our business tools and processes, meetings, email, Slack, don't address the way our brains actually work in a group setting. They don't account for things like louder, more senior voices dominating conversations. And people hold back their best ideas and their most valuable, authentic feedback because of a fear of failure or judgment. And this cost companies billions, and really bad decisions stalled innovation and wasted time or decreased productivity. We built Ballooner, an anonymous collaborative platform that helps companies and teams accelerate time to wisdom and really creates that idea and feedback meritocracy. Here's how it works. So one of our customers, Christine, a product owner at BMW, needs to surface and prioritize feature ideas as part of an upcoming build. So she uses Ballooner, and she starts a flight, which is a set of questions. She then invites her team, and they go together through a special stage flow. This flight is for feature prioritization. They first anonymously launch balloons, and balloons are the ideas, the feedback, the information. They do this without anchoring bias, no loud voices interrupting, and no fears. They then anonymously discuss those balloons without titles, identities, pleasantries, courtesies getting in the way. They complete a merit-based vote without groupthink. And when the flight's done, the results are revealed. And Christine has a surfaced and prioritized list of the top feature requests and ideas. She also has access to a Ballooner score, which gives her information about buy-in, approval, consensus. And although Ballooner is anonymous start to finish, users are able to remove anonymity and claim their contributions. So people are so motivated to participate, knowing that they can get credit. And Christine shared with us that Ballooner helped them surface and prioritize new product feature ideas that helped them move forward, improve customer experience and engagement, and people were so bought in because their voices were heard. Ballooner is used by teams and companies of all sizes across many different industries. These are some of our paying customers: Capital One, Thumbtack, Airbnb, US Cellular, Google, the LA Angels, etc. And our customers are really seeing the power. Capital One identified barriers to advancement and development, saying that they were shocked by the humanness of information shared on Ballooner. The LA Angels improved scouting, saying that Ballooner brought together their nationwide scouts into one room and got them to consensus on planning. And Dartmouth reduced meeting time by 70%, saying that once you use Ballooner, it's impossible to imagine doing things the old way. We're selling SaaS subscriptions. We're landing and expanding. We're at 250K ARR, projected to hit 500K in Q1 of this coming year, with a $4 million pipeline, majority of which has been inbound. And the opportunities in front of us are huge. We're surfacing new, unique, critical data, so the big opportunity is a platform play, leveraging our true data set. And we're a Dartmouth Carnegie Mellon founding team. We built and designed products for IBM Watson, Bloomberg, even the Dalai Lama. I previously was a public health researcher in DC. I'm Amanda. We're Ballooner. We're ballooning and reachable knowledge. Thank you so much.
Well done. And your weekly metric?
Yes. So when we started the launch program, we were tracking outbound to demo conversion rate because we were in the process of releasing a new version of our product. We've released new version to rave reviews. Our current customers have all transitioned over, and we've started closing that outbound that we started. And our sales cycle has shortened to 30 days on that new outbound. We closed 4 new customers last week.
Wow, amazing! Congrats.
Thanks.
Great. Andy, feedback and questions.
Sure. Great job. What are the cases in which anonymity breaks or doesn't work?
I have two questions. One in terms of who are you selling to within the organization? Because I see a bunch of different use cases for this. And if you go after everybody, that gets a little bit challenging. And then what's your vision beyond this? Because I see this as kind of a function within a larger solution. So where does it go beyond this?
How are you going about getting your customers? Or is it just a sales team? Or how are you going about attracting your customers?
Congrats on the project's progress. What's the biggest learning from the last few months?
I remember seeing this from about 2 years ago when you guys were starting out, so congratulations on all the progress. Hoping to understand, same set of questions as Terry, and also wanting to see how you can position this into a true painkiller, not a vitamin, so that in lean times, this isn't something that gets cut.
Great presentation, Amanda. How do companies integrate Ballooner into their day-to-day functions? And then, and kind of part of that is, it seems like a great tool for finite decision-making where you use it and then stop. How do you use it in a kind of the infinite, like I said, day-to-day operations?
Yeah, I'm really curious is this something that you'd want to use every day in the business? Like, how do you really make this a have-to-have? That's it.
Then we have two questions from the live stream. One, typical entry point into a new business from Kartik. And then I believe this may have been asked, but if not, what your pricing model? How do you price to your enterprise clients?
Do I get added time?
You do get a little bit added time.
Oh, really? Okay, yay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
2-ish minutes on the clock. Go.
All right, awesome. So Andy, in terms of anonymity, so one, across all these rollouts, we've never had an issue with it because ballooners use very line of business, and anonymity is a feature. We haven't built a brand around it. We also require login with company name, email, and your actual name so you can claim your balloons. So we haven't had an issue. We do have some ideas in place. We built an off-topic button, never need to roll it out. Terry, in terms of our buyer, so VP of marketing, product, sales, operations, very line of business, oftentimes like requiring C-level approval, but yes, used a lot of different ways within a company. We built it very deliberately to be a horizontal tool, and we developed these like hundreds of these flight plans that cover different use cases within a company. So if we start in a product team can show those flight plans then to the marketing team, and they can scale and grow from there. Let's see. Brian, in terms of, I wrote down customers. Do you have a sales team? Is that how you? We have one growth person. We're a very lean team. Majority of our customers have been inbound through earned media, referrals, et cetera. This outbound are email campaigns. Zach, biggest learning. So many learnings. One is that Ballooner is really effective in all these different ways, and we have to really empower our customers to use it these different ways with those flight plans. That would probably be number one. Ivy, I think this is a painkiller. I think this is the most untapped opportunity, not only within companies, but within the world. So you can build all the AI and all the machine learning on Earth, but if it's pulling from the wrong data set, which it is, that's covered in group dynamics and bias, then you're not actually getting the right insights. Kirby, incorporating in day-to-day and like how do you kind of get this to be continuously used? So that's where those flight plans come in. Companies really see, 10 different ways to use this in their company right away. So we just empower them to do that. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, live stream. What were they? Payment model? SaaS? Yeah, so SaaS per user per month, billed annually. VP of line of business.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
A round of applause for Amanda. Let's welcome Clint from Tribal Metrics. One more. Three minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Clint Gordon-Carroll, CEO of Tribal Metrics, helping you grow high-performance teams. So it's December. It's been about a month. HR groups from around the world have kicked off their annual end-of-year performance review program, which is similar or akin to medieval torture. And if you don't believe me, go and ask any executive or any manager who's having to spend 30 or 40 hours this week just to be able to get that done before the holidays come. Well, how important are performance reviews? How important is it to take care of your top talent in an organization? Well, ask the Cleveland Cavaliers right now how things are going after they've taken care of their top talent. This happens all over the world, whether it's in MetLife in insurance or whether it's in a tech company. You've got to be able to take care of your top people. You've got to be able to get them feedback. They've got to be able to have growth plans. And you've got to be able to help them see where they are and how well they're performing. So with Tribal Metrics, we actually are taking a very radical approach to performance reviews. We lead with one question to review how somebody's performance is doing anonymously through your workspace tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams. And we ask that question anonymously once to twice a day about other people in your organization that you fill out, and you give them a response. Now, we have an algorithm that's similar to that of like a Google PageRank, which then accounts for all the different values, whether it was a high performer who rated you versus a low performer. We look for things where changes happen, like if you're performing highly, what happens if we want to get the wins, we want to get that feedback back. So we go and find that out from your team members and managers. But also, if things go poorly, what area could they improve on as well? And then we pass that back to the manager, so the manager can get nudged and do a one-on-one with Jane, find out what she's doing, how come it's maybe going poorly, what the teammates are saying, and then be able to address that and have very direct, candid conversations. Our system is so rich with data that we can even predict things like flight risk, which is really interesting. We also make it really easy at the end of the year to do your yearly performance reviews, hit a single button, downloads all the data from the entire year, the wins, the areas where they've had to improve, as well as the actual scores and data of how well they've done. This makes it, this time of year, so easy and simple, and it makes it without bias, without the challenges of who should get bonuses and who shouldn't, who should get pay raises, or even potential promotions. We also want to democratize the data. We want you to be able to, as an employee, take that with you and be able to go to the next job and say, hey, this is how well I've done. We're excited by what we can do in that space. Our team, we launched a company called Space Monkey in 2011, sold it in 2014, stayed around to build a peer-to-peer distributed system, and now we're off to build our next company here at Tribal Metrics. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Clint. And your weekly growth metric?
Yeah, our weekly growth metric, we're kind of the young pups. We launched actually here during launch, and we are active companies and total users. We went flat this week, partly because we're landing a pretty big company with a few thousand employees. So,
great. Bill, want to start us off? Feedback and questions?
Yeah. Any concerns about turning this into a kind of a popularity contest for the employees?
What's the driver of usage? What do you find as the real driver for engagement, for usage?
Who do you typically run into in terms of competition, and why do you think you'll win against them?
So this seems technically super trivial. How do you argue against that?
Do you have liabilities for, let's say your data comes out and gives a person's, in theory, a bad review? Do you have a contingent liability there with if their job gets terminated or something of that nature?
Yeah, to Ivy's point on the competition, I know I saw at least 4 or 5 of these 2 years ago. I have no idea how they're doing. I have 2 questions. How do you deal with people who could potentially be ignoring these pings? We get alert fatigue, so after a while, are people starting to ignore these, hey, give me some feedback, hey, give me some feedback, because that could be death. And then how does it take into account priorities? Because Jane may have certain corporate or personal priorities from an objective perspective that the other people aren't aware of. And so they may be judged on their performance based on something without fully understanding the alignment or being out of alignment on objectives.
When you attempt to sell it into a company and they choose to not move forward, what's the number one reason that they give for not moving forward?
And Clint, we had one question from the live stream, kind of around competition, but previous Lattice customers, how do they feel about Tribal and why they think it's better? We can add a few seconds for you on the time as well. You ready?
Yep.
2 minutes on the clock. Go for it.
Hey, fantastic. So, first of all, I think one of the best questions to answer right off the way, which kind of helps a lot of the other questions, is what's the driver for engagement? The driver for engagement is really around the idea that people want to know where they stand. One of the worst things that I've ever experienced, and we see this over and over, is an employee who wants to come in and get a raise or go for a promotion and doesn't realize that maybe they're an underperformer, or maybe they're not ready, or they haven't hit certain marks that they need to. Self-awareness is a huge driver behind why we do this. And it's also on the other side. If I'm just in the trenches and I'm working really hard and I haven't gotten any praise, or I don't know that I'm killing it, how do I know? And so that's really the big driver. So what do we see? Is it a popularity contest? We have seen that at times. It'll start out as a popularity contest. The first month or so, people are kind of feeling their way through how they review other people. But eventually, it kind of goes away because it's an anonymous survey. It goes away, and people start feeling, hey, you know what? Yeah, even though that guy is really popular, I'm having to carry his work. And so then the true feelings come out. Or, hey, this guy is maybe not the most vocal or most exciting person to talk to, but man, he kills it every time. And so eventually what we see in human nature, based on what we've seen so far, is it peels out and people start becoming very honest in the surveys. Is it trivial? It is for sure a trivial response. You look at one of our big competitors, Qualtrics. They just sold for $8 billion SAP. Surveys are trivial. But the great thing is when you have that data, it's not trivial. To be able to know who your top performers are and what you have to do to keep them, that's huge value that's untapped in the organizations that we're seeing. Liability. Look, one review isn't going to kill your job. If one person, we take so many, I mean, in an average company that we're in right now, we're getting thousands of data points. So one review isn't going to make a change, which then asks your question about priority. We disaggregate the data based on who you're working with, who your teams are. Because we're integrated into Slack, it works out really well. Your channels that you're involved in make it really easy for us to say who should review you versus who shouldn't. Number one reason for people who don't do our product, ultimately it comes down to a fear of, everybody's going to have a say in performance reviews all of a sudden, and the executive management team kind of runs away a little bit from that. We've got to humanize it a little bit more. So, thank you.
All right. Round of applause for Clint. And let's welcome Brian from Loop. 3 minutes. 3, 2. You might need the clicker.
Yep. Felt like there was something.
Go.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Gannon, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Loop. Seems like in the online world is a place for virtually everyone to stay connected, whether it's teens with Snapchat or even neighbors with Nextdoor. But there's one missing, and it's huge, and it's right underneath our noses. Family. Loop's vision is to become the place where you stay connected with your family. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, wait a minute. Hasn't somebody tried that before? Well, Path was really your closest 100 friends, and they couldn't find a business model. Oh, wait a minute. I use group messaging. Well, really, that's focused on text and confined to small screens. Oh, wait a minute. I've got Apple, and everyone's got iPads. Well, when one person in your family moves to Android, the whole system breaks down. What if I told you we've created something that connects everyone, is private, and dare I say, even fun? Well, we have. And it all starts with this magical little box. Introducing Loop, the easiest and the best way to stay connected with your family. Let me show you how it works. Let's say you're out with your kids and you took this gorgeous little picture and you want to share it with your family who lives across the country. Do you post it to Facebook? Of course you don't. You post it to Loop. You simply open the app, grab the picture, add a short message, press send. Instantly shows up in your mom's house, your dad's house, and even your own kitchen. And of course, anyone you've invited to the Loop app. You can share pictures, videos, message, video chat. It's a complete family communication system and your own private family network. So we built it. Does anyone care? Well, we put up a website and a buy button. We did $1 million in sales in just under 12 weeks. One of those customers ran Best Buy Digital Imaging. They put it in 50 stores across the country. We sold out that in 4 weeks. So who are these customers? Well, introducing Monica, classic customer, 2 kids under the age of 10, family spread out across the country. She started out by buying 3 loops. But interestingly, those people bought another 5 loops. All told, we sold 8 loops and got 21 app downloads just from one sale. And then there's Tyler. No kids. Parents live in Minnesota, just looking for an easy way to stay connected. And I'm happy to say we've got our first Gen Z sighting. This punk Michael. Stay off my Snapchat. And kids love it. We're seeing early viral signals. Our average order size was 2.6 units, and for every loop that went active, 3 apps went active. And people spend time in the app. We've actually been switching people off of WhatsApp and into the group loop system. We sell hardware, of course, but we also have a recurring service model and a bevy of digital and print options for increasing lifetime value. We have a great team. I've built a $100 million business in the past. I know what it feels like. And Satal, my co-founder, used to run Words with Friends, which is still the world's most popular mobile game. We're Loop, your family network. Thank you.
Round of applause. And your weekly metric?
Yep. So we track pre-orders. So we sold out our first batch. We're starting to ship in January again. We give people the honor of giving us their credit card and ordering loops, even though they're not going to get it for about 8 to 10 weeks. We've been growing steadily, about 30% per week, and we usually sit out Black Friday because it's very expensive to advertise. And we're back at it now just this week, averaging $2,000 a week, an average order size higher than it's ever been, $600 per order. A couple $1,000 orders here.
That's great. Yeah. Andy, start us off with feedback and questions.
Why do customers churn?
I have 2 questions. So what is your biggest challenge right now? And what is your end game? Are you looking to be like acquired by a Shutterfly type thing who's really struggling, or IPO, or what's your end game?
Yeah, is there another revenue model that you see in Loop other than your existing?
What's your primary acquisition channel?
What are the COGS for the hardware component, and hoping to understand what the business looks like without the hardware and how quickly can it grow without it?
Yeah. And then I have kind of the opposite of what he's asking, how do you turn the hardware into something like an Apple where it needs to be upgraded periodically so you can generate more revenue? And what do you have to get right, or what's the most important thing for you to get right for this to really go big?
Why hardware and not just the app?
From the live stream as well. If you want to talk about Facebook's new portal, seems like a big competition. And then also from the chat, how often is video chat used? We'll add a few extra seconds for you.
I was going to say, that is a lot of questions, and there's not a lot of overlap. So why don't we start with Andy? So why do customers churn? So it's a little bit of a different world, and in fact, maybe this adds into the last question about why hardware. When we get a customer up and running, they don't churn. So it's really about onboarding because the hardware is there. It's not like Satal used to run Words with Friends, and we try to think about churn. When we get them on, they're hooked, right? And that's some of the magic of the hardware. I'll explain it in a little more detail. And so really our challenge is getting people onboarded. And once they're in the system, like again, when we do that right, they get off of iMessage and WhatsApp. It's phenomenal. Terry, so I think there was 2 questions there. What's our biggest challenge? Well, when we think about it, it is really about onboarding and making sure that when you get into the Loop system, you invite the right people as fast as you can, you get your content in there as fast as you can and become an engaged user. Those people will share it. And I'll tell you sort of this thing that's not in here. We kind of mentioned it earlier. This is potentially viral hardware. No one's ever done that before, right? Everyone else has to market directly and get you to buy the next GoPro. But customers invite other customers through the app, and then they're already engaged users. It's really phenomenal. And the second part of that question would be, I think we could easily go public. If you look at Ring Doorbell, they're a hardware software company. They were on track to go public if they needed to be at $1 billion valuation. They got bought for $1 billion. And I think anyone in the world that wants to enter the U.S. or cares about owning a social network for families, seeing the success of Nextdoor, this is a private social network, extremely relevant. Brian, revenue model beyond. I mean, I think we've got a lot on our hands right now with getting a recurring service up and running and then adding in any print and digital. The one thing I will add is that we do have a content system. People have created content channels for Loop, and potentially we could charge for those things. Zach, acquisition channel, Facebook for now. Ivy, COGS, $100. And without the hardware, I think it's a question, maybe this combines another one. So we don't know if we'll have to make hardware for the rest of our lives. We are building hardware right now because it absolutely it makes an incredible customer experience. We know that. People that buy the hardware become highly engaged users in the app because there's a secondary payoff beyond likes. It's fascinating. That being said, we have 3 times as many app users as people that have loops. And we want to see that leverage grow and grow and grow. Kirby, question about the Apple model of how do I get more and more. I think if you look at the iPod, it's a perfect example, right? Did you really need the next iPod? Not really. So I think we can have a replacement cycle if we just develop better and better products. That being said, I think there's an opportunity not only in the home, but in the office. We found that actually the most viral spot because people actually see the product day after day. And Bill, hopefully I answered that question. We built the hardware. We didn't actually start with the hardware. We started with the app only. And just through prototyping, we found the experience was just 10x better. Yeah. I'll handle any other questions offline. People can email me, Brian at JoinLoop, too.
Perfect. Round of applause for Brian. And let's welcome Crystal from PantyProp. Three minutes. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Crystal, the CEO and founder of PantyProp, and we have developed a solution for people who are unable to use alternatives such as tampons. Recent health studies have shown that girls are starting puberty as young as 9 years old, and most of them are unable to use a tampon. And it's not because they don't want to, it's because their bodies are physically unable to insert a tampon, and sanitary pads are completely ineffective. And as I grew the company, I realized that the problem goes beyond teens. You have the disabled, people that have special needs, and women that have regular, common medical health issues such as endometriosis, uterine fibroids, or PCOS. And then what about people who have gender or cultural restrictions? The current products today are typical pad products that slip, they fail, they leak, and they're not completely useful for everyday use. So what we built was a reusable solution. It's a patent-pending technology that's not only leak-proof, but it will also secure a sanitary pad perfectly in place. And on top of that, the functionality angles perfectly under the cavity of the body to collect your flow immediately on onset, stopping any front, back, or side leaks, which is a major problem. It's 100% effective, and you can wear it anywhere. So in retrospect, we built an all-in-one solution, just as simple as wearing a pair of jeans. We have underwear, swimwear, sleepwear, and activewear that you can wear all day, every day. And we're bridging that gap between health, hygiene, and comfort. And we're the only product right now that is that in-between solution between pads and tampons. So the sanitary care market is a $42 billion market. It actually is one of the top 5 markets that survived the recession. Why? Because 50% of the population suffer from incontinence or menstruation. And even though our products are 75% gross margin, they're reasonably priced from $19 to $79. Our revenue to date is $4.5 million, and we grew almost 400 to 300% year over year. What's the difference between us and them? We're the only company that can actually boldly and blatantly make that statement, no tampon required. So what did we do? We solved the real problem for anyone, anytime, and anywhere. The company comprises of about 7 of us, but the 3 of us make that up. Me, I have 20 years of business operation. Nicole has 11 years in Procter & Gamble, and Lauren has 7 years in fashion tech. So right now we're in the middle of a rebrand to become that most trusted feminine care brand in the world when you need it most. So join us in making feminine care without any limitations.
Round of applause. Your weekly metric, Crystal?
Yes. So we're tracking sales because we're a consumer product. All of our sales are directly through our website. And right now since we're rebranding, we're pulling back a lot of our ads. So we're averaging about 60,000 a week. We normally average about 80,000 to 100,000 a week.
Still pretty darn good. Great. Bill, I think you've got the mic if you want to start us off.
Yeah, congrats on all the traction. Two questions. When did the business start, and how do you target your specific consumer? You know, is it a very small group, or is it all women? You know, how do you target that customer?
Are there other options for women that may be more expensive? Are you a more accessible option, or is there just no other option?
Question about the product and question about customer acquisition. On the product side, how many times can you reuse this before you have to replace the product and buy something new? And then customer acquisition, I might have missed this, but are you going direct to consumer, or what channels are you selling through, and what category would you typically get placed in for the different channels if you're going through channels?
What's the follow on to that question? What's the reorder rate? So how often do people buy it again? And so what's the average you get per customer per year?
Have you ever explored like more of a licensing type deal with a clothing manufacturer or something like that would build that product into their clothing or something of that nature?
That's a good way to sum up, because there's already Thinx and Icon, so I'm assuming you're competing with Thinx and Icon, Thinx for period, Icon for incontinence. How many SKUs do you have? And tying into that, you're a fashion and a health brand, but how do you make sure to continue to have relevant products, unless I'm unclear on what the actual fashion product is that has this built-in solution? And I think Thinx has also expanded into shorts, and they're expanding into this market, as expanding further in this market as well.
What percent of customers are reordering, and then who specifically is reordering?
Great. 2 minutes, Crystal. Go for it.
So I will address the elephant in the room, which is the competitor first, which is Thinx. Thinx is number one. We're number two. The difference between us and Thinx is we're a full solution. Thinx right now is not a full solution and cannot support that person who does not wear a tampon, which is one of the biggest problems. And it's not an all-day solution. They would actually contradict themselves if they told you to wear a sanitary pad, in that they tell you their front end tells you that it's a full solution, but their back end tells you to carry underwear around. If you ask any woman, no woman wants to carry around underwear all day with her or change for that reason. We are direct to consumer. All those sales are directly through our website. And our how we're obtaining customers is, before this year, it was mostly organic and like little small, like $5, $10 Facebook ads. This year alone, starting in May, we started doing digital marketing, and we have grown even more than all the other 2 years. We started in 2016, and as far as a licensing deal, that's the big story here. Our gusset is what is really the product that you saw, and in the future, when that patent comes through, we'll be able to license that out, that gusset. Just think about Nike with a biker. If you're riding your bike and you have your period or incontinence, you can't just pull over and change. So if you have that gusset inside of there, it will support that for those reasons. As far as who is reordering, our core market are moms with teen and tweens, and they are reordering. We sell our product like a fashion and a functional product. It's no different than if you want the pink bathing suit in January and the purple in June. Women shop, and that's why we built the product that way, so it could just look like a normal product that you want to wear, and no one will know what you're wearing. Just think about a young girl that is 11 years old that's at sleepaway camp. No one wants her sitting on the side. It just looks normal, and she can go, and none of her friends will know socially.
Great. I'm Crystal. Happy to take questions.
I'm Crystal. I'll be happy to take any questions afterwards.
Great. A round of applause for Crystal. And let's welcome Miles from TutorMe. Last but not least. All right. 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Alrighty. My name is Miles Hunter, co-founder and CEO of TutorMe, where we're improving student success through effective online tutoring. So not too long ago, when I was an undergrad at USC, I really struggled with being able to find an effective tutoring option. The tutoring center, which was provided at USC, like most universities and colleges provide across the country, is a free resource to all students. But you actually have to go there. It's a really inconvenient commute. They're not always open. They only really offer a few core subjects, and you have to schedule these far in advance. So we decided to create a solution, and fast forward to now, we're working with a lot of major universities, and there's a real wide range of customer profiles from your small community colleges all the way up to your large state schools. So how does it work for a school that we partner with? A student would go into the LMS, which is a central student portal. They would see TutorMe as a tool there. They would click on it, and then it seamlessly goes into our platform, and they would be able to connect with a tutor. So in this case, they would type in accounting. They would go in and describe their problem, upload any relevant files, and then they would connect with a tutor. 18.2 seconds is their average connect time over 300 plus college level subjects. So then when they go into the actual lesson space, it's a proprietary lesson space built from the ground up that has a lot of features and tools that really mimic that in-person experience. So in terms of how we make money, what I just mentioned was the B2B2C model, which we directly partner with schools. They pay for these hours. The students do not pay a dime. And then they're able to use this as a supplement to really help with student retention or to really help the overall satisfaction for the student. Then there's a B2C side, which is completely organic up to this point, which is 25% of revenue thus far. And that's really just consumers going on the site and paying out of pocket for subscriptions. In terms of traction, we have 38 paying colleges. We signed one this week, a new one. But what we're most happy about is that there's zero churn. None of the schools that have run out of hours have said that they don't want to repurchase hours. And we've done over 55,000 hours of tutoring to date. Revenue last year was $730,000. We're on track to do $1.4 million this year. And then in terms of testimonials, from the student perspective, it's really a lifeline for the students. They're able to actually have a resource 24/7 to really help them with subjects that they're struggling with. And then for the school, there's really a ROI there for the student retention. Schools are also businesses, and they really need to have the students pay for the actual tuition. So it helps with that a lot. In terms of market size, really just focusing on our beachhead right now, which is university partnerships. There's 4,700 US colleges with a really conservative ACV that we've calculated thus far that's only increasing. 20% of the market's 70 million. That's obviously not including any B2C, any foreign markets, or any downstream K-12. My name is Miles Hunter, co-founder and CEO of TutorMe, where we're improving student success through effective online tutoring.
Right. Round of applause for Miles. Well done. Your weekly metric?
So the lifeline of the company is tutoring hours. We crossed the 1,000 mark a few weeks ago. And then we also saw a dive, obviously, for Thanksgiving break because students don't really study during that week off.
Yeah, but great. Hopefully we break 1,200. That's awesome. Andy, start us off.
Are you going to abandon the B2C aspect of the business? If so, why?
Can you talk a little bit about where the tutors are coming from, how they get paid? I'm assuming they get paid, and how you're measuring quality around that?
Yeah, that was based on my saying, where do you get the tutors and how do you vet them?
And then are you accounting for that pass-through revenue in your revenue, or is that revenue your SaaS revenue and the pass-through revenue is a separate thing?
Hoping to understand sales cycles to these universities and hoping to better understand how you can promote student and tutor engagement on the platform.
The business, last year you did $730,000, and this year you're going to do $1.4 million. While that's good growth, what was the limiting factor? Why wasn't it, from $730,000, which is a significant base, to why wasn't it, $2 or $3 million this year?
I'm good. Question's been asked.
Mouse, 2 minutes. Go for it.
So Andy, we're definitely not going to abandon the B2C market. It's grown organically, and there's no reason not to have it. So we're going to definitely explore putting some resources into actually expanding that out. It's a huge market. So we want to establish credibility with our current beachhead, which is universities, and then we can expand out after that. So Terry, where the tutor's from, if you use Google, we're the first result of any variation of how to become a tutor, how to become an online tutor. So we get a lot of inbound applications that way. So we're able to be really selective. Pay right now is $18 an hour. We're decreasing that to $15 in the next few months. We've been doing a lot of testing, whether that's possible and whether there's going to be any backlash from tutors. In terms of vetting, there's a long application process. We do everything that every other online tutoring company does, but then we also do something that's kind of unique is we have several mock tutoring lessons that the tutors don't know that are mock lessons. So then we kind of can understand whether they're going to be a good tutor or not. In terms of the total revenue, that is GMV, Zach. So yeah, that's the total amount. And then Ivy for sales cycle, it's 4 to 6 months. And I didn't get the secondary question. I didn't write that down right. But yeah, in terms of, you said improving engagement with tutors and students. Improving engagement is really about just getting outreach out to the schools. So making sure that there's really a lot of promotion on campus, and we're in the LMS, so that's like the best real estate you can have in terms of really getting that outreach. In terms of Kirby, why not more growth? In that 730,000, we were really a rudimentary product. There's so much more that we just didn't have, and when we're selling to schools, we just didn't have that kind of like. We didn't have a lot of the data analytics. We didn't have a lot of the dashboards that we would have that would really be useful for them to actually track retention. Yeah, so thanks. And I can answer any other questions offline.
Okay. Round of applause for Miles. All right. Saw 8 companies. Nice job. It's that time again. Take our little orange name tag, flip around, say hello to the founders. Oh, yes, that's fair. No worries. Yeah, good point. So we'll do it just like last time. I'll ask you for your number 3, your number 2. And then we'll try to make it a little dramatic for the number 1. Who's ready? You ready? Perfect. Bill, you got the mic too, right behind you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, number 2, Blackthorn. Number 3, Panty Prop.
All right. Number 2, Blackthorn. Number 3, Panty Prop. Awesome. Kirby, you ready?
Yeah. Number 2, Blackthorn. Number 3, Grin.
Number 3, Grin. Great. All right, Ivy.
Number 3, Taffy. Number 2, Ballooner.
Number 3, Taffy. Number 2, Ballooner. Okay, Zach.
Number 3, Blackthorn. Number 2, Taffy.
Great. All right. And Terry, you ready?
Number 3, Blackthorn, and number 2, Ballooner.
Number 2, Ballooner. Great.
Number 3, Ballooner. Number 2, Grin.
Number 2, Grin. All right. So, tally. We've got Blackthorn in first place with 3 points. Second place with Ballooner at 2.5, but Blackthorn's burned 4 votes already. All right, Andy, you remember how to play the game, so draw it out a little bit, then let us know who's...
I'm going to sound like a broken record on this one. I like big, shitty markets. And consequently, I'm very interested in Taffy.
Awesome. 2 points for Taffy. Oops.
I've spent 20 years working in and with biotech, med device, diagnostic, and digital health companies, and I invest in digital health. And data is, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar market, and being able to take multiple sources, aggregate, normalize, to be ultimately be able to have future insight, drive insights around it for software vendors, pharma, med device. I see clinical trial opportunities with this. You'll have to get familiar with 21 CFR Part 11. I can help you with that. But Taffy.
Awesome. All right. I got it. Here you go, Zach.
I hate the influencer space. It's way too many companies in there, but Grin's the best one I've seen so far.
Thank you.
I'm astounded at what you've done so far without much venture capital support. You've done an incredible job just bootstrapping alone. Can't wait to see where you're headed next. Now that once you have more fuel behind you, my pick is Panty Prop.
Awesome. Kirby?
My pick was also Panty Prop.
Great. All right, let's see. Let's tally it up real quick. Sorry, I should have done this a little sooner. 2, 4, 5, 5.5 for Taffy. So they're currently in first place. Panty Prop in second place at 4.5 points. Bill already voted for Panty Prop, so it doesn't look like they're going to improve. Go for it, Bill.
Taffy.
All right. Very good. And why?
Huge. I love healthcare. It's really complex, and I was actually really impressed by the founder.
Awesome. All right. So tied for, in third place today was Grin at 3.5 points. Second place was Panty Prop with 4.5 points, and winning this week is Taffy. Congratulations, Taffy. For those on the live stream, this is the last week for LI9. We'll be syndicating most of these folks over the next few weeks. If you'd like to pre-commit to any of their syndicates, email me at demont@launch.co, and we'll take a short break. So thanks very much. Yes, you're right. So the two people that were tied for first place were Ballooner and Panty Prop. So congratulations to Panty Prop for winning LI9. So one more round of applause for them. All right, now we'll take a 10-15 minute break. Stage dive.